Hello, my favorite listener. I see you found your way back into the dark of the woods. This is episode 3 of The Laughing Flame. We're going to slow things down a little bit, but we are heading back to Christmas. We'll stop in on a family and we'll see what we can find out. This is a Rust Belt Studio production. We have the 2 other shows, Mikey and the Garden Arch and The Engine of War. Both of them are fantasy shows, Mikey high and whimsical, Engine more gritty, dramatic. Both of those run on Tuesdays every other Tuesday, so opposite each other. Now, settle in. The show is about to start. Christmas, Michigan, 2001. The storm closed around them just past Munising. Snow came sideways, thick and endless, smearing the highway into a single white sheet. The wipers couldn't keep up. Each swipe left more ice than it cleared. Sarah Merritt sat in the passenger seat, and under her breath she told her husband that they should have stayed another night. Mark hunched forward over the wheel, shoulders tight. He was bound and determined to push through this. It was just weather, after all. In the back seat, the kids hardly noticed. The van was a nest of wrapping paper, toy boxes, and the kind of sugar-fueled excitement that made them oblivious to weather attention. Ben and his new Lego set spread out across his lap, clicking bricks together and chasing them around with every bump in the road. His sister Emma clutched the stuffed reindeer Grandma had given her, brushing frost from its fake antlers and humming. "Second Christmas," Emma said suddenly, bright as the snow outside. "When we get home, it's another Christmas, right, Dad?" Mark grunted. "Sure, if we ever get home." The road narrowed to a tunnel between drifts. The van's headlights caught nothing but white, as if they were driving inside of a snow globe. Mark leaned closer to the glass, jaw tight. "Damn it, where's the turn?" A flash of red broke the storm. Neon wavering in the gale, a huge plastic Santa, arm raised in frozen greetings, buzzed faintly against the dark. Mark blinked and rubbed his eyes, and the sign steadied. Motel vacancy. Below it a strip of smaller letters, "Welcome to Christmas, Michigan." He looked at Sarah, who had an expectant look on her face. Mark let out a long, frustrated sigh and then turned the car off the road. The van crunched into the lot, wheels sinking through fresh snow. The motel looked tired but solid, a low strip of doors glowing with yellow light. Frost rimmed the windows, and a pickup with a plow blade was parked near the office like a promise it would get to them eventually. Inside, the lobby was warm, smelling faintly of coffee and pine cleaner. A man in a knit sweater checked them in with a brisk cheer of someone used to storm stranded travelers. "You are not the first tonight. You won't be the last. Plow should have the road clear by tomorrow. Till then, be our guest." Mark signed the ledger with stiff fingers, and Sarah herded the kids toward their room, boots dripping meltwater onto the carpet. Ben was already rattling off plans for his Lego spaceship, and Emma twirled in the hall, reindeer held high like a trophy. By the time the door shut behind them, the storm had sealed the world outside. Snow pressed against the windows, muting the wind to a steady, low hush. Inside, the lights hummed, the heater clanked to life, and the family sank into their unplanned stopover. Emma named it first, climbing onto the bed with her reindeer. "Second Christmas." "Grandma's house was first, this is second." Sarah laughed and asked her what made it second Christmas, and Emma pointed out the window where the neon Santa glow bled faintly through the storm. "Because he followed us." Mark dropped onto the edge of the bed, rubbing his hands together. "Could be worse. The storm picked the right town to trap us in." Snow hissed against the glass, and the neon flickered, steady bright. And for a while, Christmas felt like a gift. Morning came quiet and dazzling. The storm had blown itself out overnight, leaving the world sharp-edged and shining. Sunlight scattered across the drifts piled chest-high, every rooftop wearing a crown of white. But in the distance, the sky was darker, and the threat of another round loomed on the horizon. When Sarah asked if the plows had been out yet, Mark peered out, eyes narrowing against the brightness. The lot was half buried. A single pickup had nosed through at dawn, carving a track before vanishing into the glittering horizon. No sign of the county trucks, just the road sealed tight in both directions, and he shook his head and sat back down. The kids did not mind. They had exploded back into their presence the second they woke. Emma bounced on the carpet, making her reindeer fly around the room, and Ben had turned the motel desk into a launch pad for his Lego ship, complete with swooping sound effects, wrapping paper scraps, and plastic clamshells littering all over the floor. Mark was clearly agitated. He wanted to get on the road, and the stopover should have been just that, a one-and-done stopover. Sarah reminded him that if it was bad here, it probably wasn't going to be any better anywhere else along the road. And he sighed again, rubbed the bridge of his nose, and she was right, of course. His father had taught him that the road was something you respected, not wrestled. Superior did not forgive mistakes. Still, part of him bristled at the delay and the feeling of being pinned in by weather. She took his arm, pointed at the kids, and reminded him that they were both off work until Monday, 4 days from now. They had plenty of time to get home, and this was something they could remember for years. That one time the family got snowed in for Christmas at Christmas. He didn't answer. Instead, he looked back out the window where sunlight blazed across the drifts. Somewhere out there, men in county jackets were fighting the storm with steel and diesel, but it would take them a good chunk of the day to punch through, and the sky threatened that it wasn't anywhere near done with them. Mark finally relented and headed out to go to the desk to extend their stay. The kids cheered as if he just declared a holiday, and Emma grabbed her boots and coat, insisting she had to show Rudolph the snowbanks. Ben was already digging through his Lego box for pieces he swore had gone missing. Outside, the neon Santa still glowed faintly against the pale blue sky, arm forever raised in greeting. A snowplow would come eventually, and the road would clear, and life would grind forward as always, but for now, with the world still wrapped in tight white, the family had nowhere but here to go. Mark let his shoulders drop. He knew that he was in a foul mood, but he also loved hearing his children laugh around the motel walls. And for the first time since leaving his in-laws in Cheboygan, he was letting himself feel something other than frustration. Maybe the storm had given them a gift after all. The motel clerk waved the family forward with a grin, and she assured them that they'd get out. Nothing moves too fast in winter, but it does move, and in the meantime, she gave them the rundown of the town and the places to see. She told them to head out and explore, and so they did. Christmas looked like something dreamed up in a postcard factory. Plastic reindeer still stood in the drifts outside the gas station. Candy cane street lamps leaned under the weight of the ice, their red strips dulled to pink. The post office was quiet, but there was a line of people coming in to check their boxes and to bring in the slips that said they had a package that was too big to be left at the box. Sarah bought a handful of postcards for the kids and found a corner where they could fill them out. Emma wrote, "Dear Grandma, second Christmas is the best Christmas," in blocky letters, then insisted on licking the stamp herself. Ben sketched a rocket on his and added "Greetings from Christmas" in crooked handwriting before handing it over. They wanted to be sure the clerk canceled their stamp with the Christmas Michigan post office mark so that their family would know where they had stopped. Mark shook his head when they wrote the next batch to themselves, sending the postcards to their home address. He laughed and said they better beat those letters home, or he was going to just put as many stamps as it took on all of their foreheads and hitch a ride. The little gift shops were open too, their windows fogged from space heaters. Inside, shelves sagged under glass ornaments, carved wooden Santas, and racks of t-shirts boasting slogans like "I got stuck in Christmas." So clearly this wasn't an uncommon event. The kids darted between displays, Emma cradling a snow globe, Ben tugging at a plastic disc sled, asking his father if he could have it so he could use it on the mounds that the plows were making. Mark trailed behind, still restless, but the piece of the town working on him. Nobody hurried here. People chatted over counters, clapped mittened hands on each other's shoulders, laughed easily. The storm had slowed everything, but no one seemed bothered by it. If anything, they leaned into the delay. The family wandered around, looking at the decorations, talking about how the town was probably going to look tonight, and they should be able to see it now that it wasn't driving snow. The draw of hunger started, and the group found their way to the diner on the corner, its sign a flickering string of red bulbs. Inside, it smelled of coffee and sausage. Families crowded the booths, truckers hunched over mugs, and a waitress wove through with a tray balanced like an extension of her arm. The Merritt squeezed into a booth by the window. Emma pressed her nose to the glass, watching the snow drift higher, and Ben balanced the Lego man on a spoon and launched it into his hot chocolate. Sarah ordered coffee thick enough to stand on a spoon. Mark finally let his shoulders relax. It felt like they'd stepped sideways out of the world into a bubble of warmth and cheer where nothing bad could reach them. The only reminder of the storm was the snow piled outside the door, muffling every sound until the trucks on the highway passed like ghosts. At the counter, a man with a white beard and a logging jacket raised his mug in greeting. "Welcome to Christmas," he said. The look Gemma gave him, as if he might be the Santa here at the diner, made him laugh lightly, and he tried to turn it into as close as a ho-ho-ho as he could. He gave the parents a wink before turning back to his cup. The waitress set down their plates, eggs, sausage gravy, pancakes with butter and syrup, cocoa with mounds of whipped cream. Emma giggled, dipping her stuffed reindeer's nose in the foam, and Ben pulled the postcard he'd been saving and wrote down what everyone ate as a record. Outside, the neon Santa kept his vigil, arm raised against the pale blue afternoon. The snowbanks gleamed like glass, and inside the diner, Christmas felt alive, not just a town, not just a season, but a place where being stuck didn't mean being lost. They made a quick stop at the room to drop off their required treasures and warm up a bit before heading out again. The clerk had told them about the church being open for a social today and pointed the way out of the lot. The little clapboard building sat at the center of town, white steeple dusted in snow, bell rope swaying gently in the breeze. Its doors stood open, glowing warm inside. The storm had scattered holiday plans, so the congregation had stretched Christmas one day longer, a gathering for anyone still in town. Travelers mixed easily with locals. Snowdrifts made everyone neighbors. Inside, pews filled with color, bright scarves, patched coats, children with flushed cheeks. Candles flickered along the windowsills, their flames steady in a glass chimney. A battered upright piano played carols softly, each note warm against the hush of winter. The pastor stepped forward, tall and thin, smile easy. His voice carried without a microphone, and he gave a quick welcome sermon, not of judgment or loss, but of winter as a season that teaches endurance, of how light, even the small flame of a single candle, could keep a room warm against the dark, about how family, those with us and those past, are always here to help see us through. Mark sat with his hands folded, listening without quite meaning to. He wasn't a church man, not since boyhood, but the words fit the moment. The storm outside had humbled him. The warmth here felt earned. Children sang next, their voices thin but bright, and Emma joined them, clutching her stuffed reindeer like a hymn book. Ben tried to pretend he was too old, but Sarah caught him humming along anyway. Afterwards, the pews broke into chatter. The Merritts were herded downstairs to a large hall that was already set up for a feast. A woman pressed a gingerbread man into Emma's hand. Another ruffled Ben's hair. As people learned that they were from out of town, plates of food appeared before them. Smiles and welcomes and the admonishments of living on road food for the holidays and won't you try some of this or take a little of that back to your room. For a while, the Merritts weren't travelers or strangers. They were part of something whole. The children's choir got together for one last carol, the final notes hanging like frost can hang in the air. Back outside, the threat of snow's return was made factual as the flakes started to fall again, heavy and fat. The kids opened their mouths and stuck their tongues out to catch them, and the neon Santa near the motel, light shining brighter in the darkening sky, still raising his hand in greeting, smiled on the whole affair. Back at the motel, the Merritts stacked their bags by the door again. Mark checked his phone, still no signal worth anything. Sarah picked up the hotel phone to let her parents know where they were, and Mark rolled his eyes at the cost of using a hotel phone for a long-distance phone call. The world beyond their window was still buried, but inside the family felt settled. Not trapped, not rushed, just held one day longer in a town that seemed made for waiting. The snow was becoming something of an annoyance, but then Mark remembered the last carol and looked back at his children. They didn't have to dream of a white Christmas. It had been nothing but since they had gotten here. Hello again. Thanks for coming back into the dark of the woods with us. This is a Rust Belt Studio production. It was written and performed by Bryan Foster. You can find this and all of our other productions wherever you find your favorite podcast. If you'd like to support the studio, listens go a long way. Likes and reviews are great to help move us forward. Sharing the show with someone who you think would enjoy it is absolutely huge. If you'd like to do more, you can join our Patreon, and the link is in the show notes below. At just $2 a month, you can join our GRIP tier and get early and ad-free access to all of our shows. For $5, you can move up to the projectionist level, where you add on access to the booth and exclusive content only patrons get. At $9, become an executive producer and help shape the studio. Whatever you decide, we appreciate you being here, and as always, until next time, my favorite listener.